Good afternoon. I'm Larry Kamer, and this is my channel, The Fly Tying Philosopher. I tie flies and talk about ideas. Today, I wanted to talk about worldviews, and at the same time, I'm going to be tying two flies. They're both the Sakasa Kabari. But they're done in two different ways, which is essentially how you put the hackle feather on, and I use pheasant hen feathers for that. So I'll film that and show it while I'm talking at the same time. Last time I mentioned that my wife and I are going to Montana and to do some fly fishing, and I was concerned about how we're going to get our equipment there. So I asked around and got some ideas, and one of them was that we get a fish rod, gear, kind of a duffel bag to get on the plane with. And so I looked around and finally got a lead on a thing, and this is what we got. It's an Elkton fishing gear duffel. It's quite large, 31 inches and or 37 inches. Holds rods. It's got waterproof compartments for boots and waders. We can put our gear and our vest and hats in this, and hopefully both of us are going to get fishing equipment into this for the flight. So we'll try it out this season. Take it with us up north when the streams or the season begins here in Michigan. Okay. I was thinking about where does Tenkara fit in my view of the world, and that led me to think about worldviews. Now, worldview is a concept that's pretty interesting to me, and I've spent quite a bit of time looking into it. Essentially, a worldview is a set of suppositions, propositions, values, conclusions, speculations about the world around us and how we negotiate it. An example would be, let's say, for instance, you go to a large gathering, maybe a political gathering, a rally, and what you'll do is see a number of different people around you. There'll be a number of different ideas on signs and placards. The speakers will espouse certain ideas, and you'll have a reaction to a lot of that. You'll react to the people around you. You may see some very strange people, and they're strange to you, and others strike a harmonious chord. Some ideas might be offensive, and your reactions to all of these experiences comes from your worldview. Now, the worldview is formed over your entire life, and it's largely unconscious. So I was interested then in what those things are and why I would react in one way to one experience and another way to a similar experience. And that led me to explore worldviews. And I think, of course, that Tenkara and fly fishing fits into this, and I'll try to point out some of those areas as we go along. Well, what makes up a worldview is um, difficult to approach, particularly since a lot of it might be unconscious. So I have read several authors on the concept, and the, one in particular is James Sire, S-I-R-E, um, and he's written a couple books. One is called Naming the Elephant, uh, and the other is The Universe Next Door. And I'll show title pages for those here on the screen. A third person I read was James Anderson, and his book is entitled "What's Your Worldview?" And this is like an exercise book where he goes through and have you question yourself about what your views are on certain topics. Trying to break all this down, then I came up with a mnemonic, and that is GMENDS, G-M-E-N-D-S. And essentially what this means is that your worldview probably has categories. G stands for God. What do you understand about God? What do you think God is? What people have told you God is? What various ideologies propose God is, and so forth. And you probably have an amalgamation of ideas, or you follow a particular creed very explicitly, and that's what God means to you. M stands for mankind, or human nature. So we have a lot of suppositions about what human beings are, how they behave, how they act, how we respond to them, how we behave, what motivates us. And E stands for ethics. And these are the value statements that you come to think about. So, for instance, if you read Aristotle, friendship is an important concept. If you read Plato, justice is important. And if you're a Christian, then perhaps the Ten Commandments or biblical values are your ethics. Next then is nature, and this is more like physical nature. What's the world like around us? What does physics say? What does chemistry say? And again, this may be infused with ideologies and values. You might be a pantheist. You might be a Trinitarian. You might be a naturalist or a scientist. So a lot of these types of things form your view on how the world works. Then comes death. Of course, we all face it, and we have thoughts about it, or we don't think about it, or we don't want to think about it, but we have to prepare, I suppose, for it at some point or other. And so that forms a lot of our values and our thoughts and ideas about how to behave. Attached to the concept of death is an afterlife. Are you reincarnated? Do you go to some place? Are you rewarded? Are you punished? Etc. So a lot of thought that we have in our worldview may be attached to these ideas. And then finally, society. How does society function? What are politics? Are we essentially democratic? Are we socialist? Are we communist? Are we Marxian? There's a number of things that motivate our thinking. And of course, in this recent past few years, politics have been at the forefront and show us really the diversity of worldviews that are out there. So I think about, well, Tenkara. First of all, there's natural beauty, and I've mentioned that a number of times in these videos. There's ecology. how do environment and stream conditions affect wildlife, how it affects our enjoyment, uh, what are social institutions regarding fishing regulations. I was reading a thing on Yellowstone and can't wear felt padded boots there. You have to use barbless hooks, can't use any form of lead. Some streams are closed in the afternoon because of temperatures. They're trying to regulate fish um, uh, and non-native fish species in particular. Apparently, brown trout, brook trout, and rainbows were introduced there. The native fish, cutthroats, and grayling and whitefish, um, are protected in a number of different ways. Uh, Somebody introduced prior to 1950 lake trout into Yellowstone Lake, and that, of course, has been a disaster for some of the native fish. And they're trying to regulate a lot of those things there, and you face a lot of regulations and park rangers and naturalists and biologists out in the waterways. And of course, those tend to be social uh, activities and regulations and restrictions um, for the benefit of the fishing population and people in their enjoyment. So it appeals to certain things. It has certain aspects of human nature, like um, making mistakes in nature, like introducing fish populations, and so forth. So, a worldview provides a lot of background that is really fascinating to kind of look into if you wanted to explore on your own. Um, Sometimes we have contradictory viewpoints from one of these categories to another, and that can cause an individual difficulties. And I think that exploring your worldviews and maybe perhaps trying to make them the various categories consistent with each other, if you like to do that. I guess you don't have to, but it seems to make things a little easier and perhaps reduces various internal stresses and anxieties and fears that an individual may have by addressing these. That's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you the next time.